Well, hello friends. Greetings from a typical Ukrainian ghetto. I'm heading down the stairs of my 9-story apartment block, and I thought I'd show you my staircase first because it looks very illustrative. So I also put on my hoodie today to blend in with local hooligans. So let's see what's happening outside. Wow, it's total dark. So, welcome to the neighborhood, friends. But before we dive deeper into it and explore some back streets, let me give you some historical context. So, we are walking down Builders of Tractors Avenue, and all the neighborhoods along this wide avenue were originally designed to house workers from the Kharkiv tractor plant. And back in the 80s, when these neighborhoods were born, they were promising areas. But then the Soviet Union collapsed and most factories in Kharkiv shut down. People faced mass unemployment. It was a tough period for Ukraine because the economic decline hit really hard. And I was lucky to be born just a couple of years before the collapse, and I was witnessing all that positive changes. So a whole generation grew up in chaotic conditions. Alcoholism, drug abuse spread. As a result, the once vibrant neighborhoods around Builders of Tractors Avenue turned into ghettos. And today we're gonna explore one of them. So this line says Проспект Тракторостроителей, which is Builders of Tractors Avenue. And I spotted a bomb shelter. So let's check it out. And air raid alert. So we're just in time. Oops. So there are a lot of bomb shelters that were organized in basements of just regular block of flats. They were not originally designed for this purpose, but just the government thought it's better than be somewhere on top floors. So you can see some pipes here. It's just a regular basement of a regular Soviet block of flats. So they put some benches here. Oops. Oh, it's really dark. I could hear some like water is dripping. So you can theoretically go there, just take a seat and wait until all clear. Oops. My mom got a flat in this neighborhood in 1986. She didn't work at Kharkiv tractor plant. She worked at a research institute, but employees of this kind of institutes back in the USSR, they were entitled to housing. So she received a flat, and since that, she's been living here. Oh, it's very nice and green. Oh, looks like bullet holes. So behind me is school number 167. I went to the school until the age of 11. After then, my parents noticed that there was some alcohol and drug use among the students of the school, and they were scared and sent me to a mass-focused school where I was struggling a lot and I had to commute to another part of the city. But at least I am not an alcoholic now, friends. And as you can see, there is some cheap boards because probably some windows were blowing out because of the blast wave. Although this neighborhood wasn't bombed like heavily. Maybe there was some strikes in a distant. Bye bye, my first school. See you later. Hope you will survive these tough circumstances in Kharkiv. Let's cross the road, friends. In Ukraine you have to be careful while crossing the streets because they don't really respect zebra crossing. Since I live closer to the main avenue and public transportation, I don't usually come this far into the neighborhood. What we're seeing now is pretty typical for Ukraine. A Soviet-time housing complex with grey buildings whose outside walls could use some fixing up. To gain extra space, people have added makeshift balconies. The pedestrian paths, though, are quite walkable without many holes or rough spots. I'm not too familiar with this part of the neighborhood, but I know there is a hidden section even further in, where struggling families and minority communities live in run-down dormitory-style housing. So I thought it might be interesting to find what I think of a ghetto and take a closer look at what life can be like for some people here in Kharkiv. I expect this building is a dormitory because it doesn't look like a regular residential block of flats. Wow, I've never been here, friends, so I'm really exploring this area along with you. Wow, and here it looks pretty lovely, like a green area. Wow, not too bad. No hooligans. My camera is still with me, so maybe it's not that dangerous here. This place looks like an abandoned football field, or maybe it was like a sport zone, because here in the distance I could see some bars, some sport bars. I don't know, what do you call it, guys, in English? I guess it's bars. We walked pretty far from the main street and ended up in one of the rougher parts of the neighborhood where they built dormitories for workers back in the Soviet times. After the USSR collapsed, many factories shut down, and the funding to maintain these buildings disappeared as well. Over the years, they've really fallen into bad shape. Now they're mostly filled with people who can't afford to rent or buy a proper place. Many are ex-factory workers or just stuck here because they don't have the money to move. You also see some migrants here, often from former Soviet republics in Asia. I came here close to sunset, and it made everything look even more depressing. But even in the roughest parts of Kharkiv, it's mostly safe. Sure, sometimes someone might offer you drugs or try to snatch your gold chain, or a homeless person might ask for cash, but that's not happening all the time. The real problem here is poverty, and the alcohol and drug use is pretty high too. Oops, let's try to look what's behind this fence. It looks like abandoned shop or something like this. I've never seen this place before. I'm heading back home because it's getting darker. Well, inside this ghetto, things look pretty neglected and run down, but I also understand that compared to some ghettos in the West, like maybe in the USA, where you can have some gun violence and something like this, here it feels pretty safe. Yes, everything is pretty neglected, but you feel pretty safe. And I'm still with my camera. I don't know, maybe my hoodie helped. but I am safe and sound.